Take Back Your Health Now, Episode 30.
You're listening to the Take Back Your Health Now podcast, the show that interviews the top doctors, athletes, trainers, and entrepreneurs to help you find the Holy Grail of health. Now here's your host, Dr. Dan Margolin.
Hi, this is Dr. Dan Margolin with another segment of Take Back Your Health Now, where we pull out all the stops in search of health's Holy Grail. We are really excited today to have Mr. Dave Smith. He is a personal trainer since 2001 and was chosen as Canada's top fitness professional in 2013 for his dedication to his clients' success. Dave Smith, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Dr. Dan, I'm great. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing awesome, man. I'm doing awesome. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Hey, I got like a million questions for you. But the first thing is you put a lot of emphasis in working out and stuff on the power of habit. What habits, should we have to achieve wellness? And how do we do that?
Yeah, my whole approach with clients is all about habit building. And here's the rule that I always tell clients is we get so often caught up in thinking about where we want to end up. And we take on all of these different, goals or habits that we want to build to get to that end place. And it's overwhelming. And the end result is we get frustrated, we quit, we feel like a failure. And then usually in January, the next year, we start all over again and do this process year after year. So instead, what I'd like to encourage people to do is think about, I always use the term mastery. Develop mastery over just one habit. And then once you feel like that's actually become a habit in your life, then you can move on and develop mastery over another habit.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So when you're saying like mastery, like if I'm working out a lot, right, or I start working out, I haven't worked out in years, what would be an example of something that I would get mastery over?
Yeah. Oh, great. I love that question. So when I used to be a face-to-face personal trainer, I'd have clients that would come in all the time and they'd tell me their goals. And I'd say, okay, well, what do you want to do to reach those goals? And 9 times out of 10, they'd say, I want to exercise 7 days per week. And geez, man,
not even sleep anymore. I don't even want to sleep anymore.
Seriously. But that's like the exact opposite of mastery, because going from zero exercise to saying, I'm going to exercise every single day, the chance of that happening is virtually zero. So, your question is, what can you do for exercise? I would say master the habit, pick a day of the week. So let's say Wednesday, and master the habit of going to the gym every single Wednesday. And when you've proven to yourself, like over 4 or 6 weeks, that Wednesdays, like without fail, you're going to go to the gym. Don't worry about what you do when you get there. Just get to the gym. When you know that habit's built, then you can build something else. And maybe it means, changing the type of exercise to make it a little bit more challenging, or maybe it means taking on, hey, you're going to do Mondays and Wednesdays. That's what I'm talking about, mastering little tiny habits.
Love it. Love it. And how long would you say that it takes something to become a habit? Like, is it 3 months, or how long would you think it would be?
Yeah, there's quite often you'll hear people say 21 days. Have you ever heard that, 21 days to build a habit?
Yeah, it's never worked for me, man. There's no way. There's no way.
And, I think that's like bogus research. Whoever started that, research kind of shows it's closer to that 70 to 80 day range.
That I believe. I would believe.
So at least 2 months. And I know that sounds like the long haul, but I work primarily with clients who want to lose weight. And, if you can do something for 2 months and build that habit, chances are next year you're not starting over from scratch. So it's worth it.
No, you're really building a strong foundation. Now, do you find that there's some people, like I'll just give you an example. I really started working out pretty hard about a year ago. And just, I'll find that I almost have to build into my workout a time off where I give myself a week in case the poop hits the fan. Like last week was so busy for me. Literally, I have to be up and doing surgeries at like 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. I had to blow off some of the workouts, but it's not so bad for me because I sort of in my head had figured out that I was going to end up doing that anyway. I would give myself a week somewhere in that. I mean, is that the right viewpoint, or should it be like, well, get up at 4 o'clock if you got to get up at 5?
Well, let me ask you, what happened then? Did you get back into the habit when that week was over?
You know what I did, actually? Yes, I did. I mean, it was a little bit of a struggle, quite honestly. I don't think the workouts, that I come out of that are as good because I don't know why. It just doesn't feel as strong. But yes, ultimately, I've been getting back. Now, years before, absolutely not. Years before, I would be gone.
And most people, to be honest, fall off. Like that's what it takes is a disruption in life because it's relatively easy to exercise when everything goes smoothly. But as soon as there's that disruption, it's easy to fall off path. So I like to use, there's a strategy, it's really powerful. It's called if then statements. And I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but basically
I'm
it
not.
works really simple. It would be if something happens, then what are you going to do about it? So in the example you gave, if I have a really busy week, then how am I going to get my exercise regardless? And you gave one example could be if I'm so busy today that I can't work out at 6 a.m., then I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and do a 30-minute workout. Or
Okay.
if I'm really busy today, and I know I'm not going to be able to get to the gym, then I'm not going to go out for lunch. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk and eat lunch at my desk. So there's a million different permutations of how you can put this if-then statement together, but it's so powerful because it can literally overcome any obstacle you face.
Yeah, I love it because it's very fluid, right? It's really like something that just moves, but it's not accepting defeat because you're not
Yes.
saying, if this happens, well, then I'm going to go back to bed. I don't think that's probably right.
Well, you could. That is an if-then statement, I guess. But, I like to use it with my clients. It really works well around food. So, for anyone that suffers from food cravings, a common one I'll work with is if after dinner I feel like eating a cookie or a bowl of ice cream or whatever it is, then I will pour myself a glass of, I like to use chai tea because it's a little bit sweet, it has that sweetness to it. So
Sure.
if I have a sugar craving, then I'll drink a full cup of tea before I dive into dessert. And it just gives people that, something that feels good, they know becomes programmed in their life, no questions asked, just easy to do.
Wow, I love that, Dave. Man, you're so easy to talk to. I could actually see that you've been doing this a long time. I could imagine that there are flocks of people sort of lined up for your advice and to work with you. How did you get started in all this?
Uh, kind of an embarrassing story, actually. So it goes way back to my high school days. Actually, I was the school president, and I was emceeing this assembly and feeling really good about myself. I had made some jokes, everyone laughed, thought I was kind of the man. Walking down the hall after this assembly, and I see this girl walking towards me. And she comes up and she says, "Hey, Dave, you know what I noticed when you're up there on stage?" And right away I thought, okay, she's going to tell me I'm really funny, or she thought I was really cute. And she says, "I
Right.
noticed how skinny your arms are." And
Oh,
as an 18-year-old guy, honestly, I was just devastated. I had never
oh,
noticed I had these like skinny little arms before, but literally the next day I went and got a gym membership. And
wow.
Dr. Dan, I'm embarrassed, but it's true. It's 100% for vanity reasons. I didn't want these skinny little arms, but that's what it took for me to sort of fall in love with exercise. And then soon after that, I started to look at what I was eating. And, that started when I was 18 and I'm pushing 40 now. So I've been at it for a long time.
Wow. I saw like just some pictures and stuff online of you. And you look like first of all, you look a lot younger than 40 years old. I'm 54, so I know what it means and what it takes to stay in shape as you're getting a little bit older. Not that 40 is old by any means, but what did you change in terms of your eating habits? I mean, was there at that point, did you start eating more protein? Did you start eating less? Like, what did you do with that?
Another great question. So I fell in the trap of a lot of young guys. I was reading, all the muscle mags and reading exactly what you said, actually. It's funny that you say eating more protein. And that's what I thought. I need to have this high protein diet, cut out fats, cut out like all kinds of foods that probably were quite healthy for me. And the story plays out. So that started when I was 18. And by the time I went to university, I had a very severe case of sleep apnea and basically got virtually no sleep, was exhausted all the time. The turning point, and I've been asked this before, the big turning point for me was when I started my first co-op job as a business student. I was working in an office and was on a conference call. And I guess I had fallen asleep while on the conference call, and I woke up because I was drooling all over the receiver of the phone. And I thought, okay, there's something wrong with me. This should not be happening.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was a huge wake up call that ultra restrictive dieting, and I see clients all the time that say, I can't eat this or I only eat this. That ultra restrictive dieting, that's not how our bodies are built to function. And so since then, it's really been an experimentation process of all the different healthy foods out there, the different quality levels of foods, what works for my body, and then helping my clients do the same.
And are there certain foods that you would say, maybe that we've been taught are actually good for you, that even yourself were a little bit surprised that they really weren't good for you, and that you get people, you find people that are trying to be good and they're eating these foods and they're actually not as good for them as the people thought they were?
Oh, there's tons of examples, like basically walking to any supermarket, and if this is kind of my rule, if it has to have a health claim on it, then chances are it's not as healthy as it says it is. But, Dr. Dan, what I will say is that it's really hard to make hard and fast rules for everyone. So, we've gone through, in my lifetime, there was the low fat craze, there was the no carb craze, there's the high protein craze. And the fact is that everyone is built differently, and your diet, your ideal macronutrient breakdown of what foods you should be eating is going to be different than mine. So something that I always caution people is, if you hear anyone that's saying everyone needs to eat this or everyone needs to do this, it's probably a good idea to run away, because chances are that that's not the truth for you.
So really, like, you start eating it, and it depends on how you feel. If you're feeling better on it, oh, I love it. I love it. And so at what point did you like totally devote your life to this direction?
Yeah, like I started personal training when I was in university, and so that was kind of the start of it. But then I was doing a business degree at the time, and so I completed my degree and started working in corporate marketing. But here's the kicker: is the first full-time job I got as a marketing manager was working for the Hershey Chocolate Company.
No.
Yeah, it was the
You went over to the other side, my friend.
I was the biggest hypocrite in the world. So by day, my job was as the marketing manager for Twizzlers licorice and then Jolly Ranchers hard candy. So by day, I was creating marketing campaigns to get people to eat more sugar. And then by night, I was a personal trainer trying to stop people from eating sugar. So
Wow. That's great.
yeah, so I did that for a couple of years and just realized the whole marketing side of things, I didn't feel like I was making an impact in the world. And so transitioned full-time into fitness, and I've been going at that ever since.
Well, I guess, also that marketing degree and all that marketing background definitely has to help you in this field, right? I mean, look at the success that you've become.
Yeah, you asked a really great question about what foods people think are healthy that actually aren't. And I'm not going to name the name of the product that I used to market, but I had a specific product in my portfolio that was being marketed to moms as a candy that was made with real fruit. And on the package, we used all these health claims talking about how there's all kinds of real fruit in there, and it's the healthier choice, blah blah blah. And in reality, to meet the food requirements to be able to say those claims, the actual candy had to have 4% real fruit. And
4%.
4%. If we had 4%, then we could say made with real fruit. And so I remember specifically, there's one event that was a huge eye opener to me. Is we were doing this focus group, and I'm watching all these women, they're testing out these candies. And the one woman said, I just feel good about buying these because when my kids don't eat their fruit, I know that I can give them these. And I just thought, man, what am I doing with my life?
Ooh, yep. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's rough. I mean, who writes these rules of 4%? Where would they come up with that? Why not 3%? Why not go crazy? Make it 2%. Right?
Seriously.
Like 4%. Where'd you come up with that from? Oh my God. So, let's go into like why when you do start exercising, you start working out and you're not getting the results. Is it because of things like that? Is it because you think you're eating fruit and you're eating something that's 4% fruit? Or I just saw something where it's online at Facebook, a Subway. They did a study and they looked at the amount of chicken that was in the chicken, and it was like 50% chicken, 50% soy, or something like that. How widespread is this? Like, do we really know what we're eating?
No, I'm not surprised. I've never heard that Subway research, but that doesn't surprise me at all. And, you asked, your question was, when people start exercising and they're not getting the results, why is that? And you're 100% right on when you say it's food related. It doesn't take, I was just being interviewed this morning about personal training strategies. And I was saying that as a personal trainer, we need to get over ourselves and stop saying that, we have the miracle workout program that's going to cure everyone and help everyone lose weight. The fact is, if you move your body, that's all you need to do. Figure out your diet. Don't worry about having the perfect workout routine. Figure out your diet. That's the key.
Wow. I just interviewed John LaLanne, Jack LaLanne's son. And, my question towards the end is always, what do you consider the holy grail of health? And I said, what would your father have considered? And basically it was motion and exercise. And it's interesting. This weekend I was actually in Tennessee taking a course on joints and joint repair and stuff like that. And they were explaining how the motion of the joint creates the nutrition being brought into the joint, that the joints themselves don't actually have circulation going into them, but there's through almost like an osmotic pressure from the motion, the nutrients go in there. And so it just struck me about what John had said, and it strikes me about what you're saying, that the exercise and the motion is really a big part of that holy grail of health.
Yeah, and it is motion. That's such a great word because it really is moving our body. I think that so many people are caught up in this idea that exercise is either running or lifting weights. And then if you do anything else, maybe it's like a nice activity, but it's not actually working out or exercising. And it just couldn't be further from the truth. Move your body. That's all it is.
So when you get somebody that comes to you, well, give us an idea, I guess, what does your process for a client look like? And then my next question would be like, what would the process look like for somebody that's really out of shape and hasn't worked out in a long time?
Yeah, I think the process, to be honest, I approach working with clients in a much different now than I did, 15 years ago, but it's much more psychological, really finding out, what's the true motivation? Why is someone doing this? Like what will keep them on that path? Because when someone comes in to see me, I ask them, why are you here? The first thing they're going to say is because, I want to get in shape. And that's like about the worst reason ever, because what does that actually mean? What does in shape mean? And so,
Sure.
if I drill down a little bit deeper and say, well, what does that look like? Most people say, I want to lose weight. But that's still a very weak motivation. Well, why do you want to lose weight? And I remember the process that I actually use is I ask the question, how will that make your life better? And I've had a couple really great sort of case studies of how this works so well. So I want to get in shape. How will that make your life better? Well, because then I'll lose weight. Well, how will that make your life better? And there's one woman that I took this through, and she talked about how losing weight will give her confidence. Well, how will that make your life better? Well, if I have more confidence, then I'll go out and be able to socialize more easily. Okay, well, how will that make your life better? And her story kept on diving down and down and down. And eventually it came out that she owns her own business, and her business is really struggling. And she needs to go to socially network in order to meet the contacts that she needs to meet to make her business a success. And she felt so self-conscious about her body that she wasn't doing that. And when you get down to that level of motivation, that's powerful. Like if she wakes up and remembers, my livelihood, my business depends on me feeling good about my body, therefore I'm going to go to the gym. That's way better than saying, I'm going to go to the gym today because I want to get in shape.
Oh yeah, that's a totally different motivation. That's when you hit that, when you're with somebody, do you know immediately, like, yeah, that's it. Like this person, let's just start working out. Here's the dumbbells, right? You don't have to go any further than that.
Yeah, well, like I know it and they know it. It's cool because you see that light bulb moment where it's just like, oh yeah, this is why I'm here.
Wow. So what should an optimal fitness routine look like? I mean, I don't know. Again, it may be variable depending on the person, but if we had sort of the average person, what would that look like?
Yeah, like it goes all back to what we were talking about before about moving your body. And I like to use, there's a concept called the 6 primal movement patterns. And basically you just think about how we were prehistorically, like prehistoric man, what kind of movements would they do? And then we need to train our bodies to do those same movements. Or you can think about it as a child, like what kind of movements would a child do? That's what we need to do. So the 6 really quickly are pushing, pulling, bending, twisting, lunging, and then squatting. And if you can build those into your workout routine, your body's going to function really well and it's going to respond really well to the exercise. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. You can do that in the weight room. You can do it in a fitness class. You can do it in a dance class. There's so many different ways. You can do it playing sports. So I try and get, particularly guys are the worst because we go into the gym and what do we like to do? We like to do our bicep curls and we like to, build big pecs. But That's a
What do they
pretty
say? Buys for guys and tries. No, buys for girls and tries for guys, or something like that, right?
yeah, there's
Like
something
that.
like that. But yeah, so that holistic perspective, think about how does your body intended to move and then go and train it to move like that.
Well, I like that because it breaks it down. I mean, you can go into a gym and you can see all the different machines, and you can get a little bit frustrated or a little bit shocked because you don't know how to use all of them. But if you keep that in your mind that you've just got to do pushing, pulling, like squatting, you're breaking down those basic motions. I like that. I like that a great deal. Dave, what's a sweet spot in weight? And like, in other words, let's say I were to come into you and I would say, listen, you found my motivation, right? Like my business is in trouble. I need to meet people. I feel funny about the way I look. How would you assess how much weight I needed to lose to actually, look my best or feel my best?
Oh, that's $1 million question. That's a tough one.
I got some good questions here, Dave.
Yeah, that's great. And it is tough because we use, or online, you see it all the time. People use things like BMI and say, oh, BMI told me I'm obese or morbidly obese. And, Dr. Dan, the fact is that generalized charts like that or generalized metrics are pretty meaningless because everyone's body is built so differently.
Okay.
So the most accurate measurement that you can use really is a body fat percentage. And I say that hesitantly because I know, a lot of listeners, they might have their body fat scale at home, and chances are that body fat scale is making up some number that might not be a reflection of reality at all. But that is about
Well,
the only...
what is a body fat scale? What does that look like, and how do you even use that? I've heard it before. I've never really seen one.
Like most of the cheap ones that people have in their home are based on something called electrical impedance. And basically what it does is it sends electrical pulse through your body, and then based on your body composition, so how much lean tissue versus fat tissue you have, that pulse will return at a different pace. And so it can tell if it's faster or slower, either you're fatter or you're leaner. And it's a very like rule of thumb way of measuring body fat, but it's not super accurate. So you get people that step on these and they are so dismayed, or they've been working hard and they don't see it go down. Well, chances are your scale probably isn't telling an accurate picture. The better way to do it, if you go to like a doctor's office, or a lot of gyms will have a professional quality one, and it's 1 million times more accurate. So you can actually start to see some true progress if you measure yourself over time on that type of scale.
So they do work. You just said you need a little bit of a higher end one to really be accurate.
Yeah, it's more accurate. It'd still be probably like plus or minus 2%, but it's relatively close. There's much more advanced ways, like you can do a submersion test where you actually are submerged in this pool, and it's very accurate, but you're paying a lot of money or going to some sort of university to get those done. So
Okay.
you go to a gym, and that's probably your best bet.
Gotcha. So the other, you said to measure your body fat. How is there? I've heard calipers and things like that. Are those accurate at all?
Yeah, totally. Like if you're working with a professional, you can. If someone was going to go out and buy a set of calipers and try it on themselves, I'd say that probably won't be very accurate.
Probably not gonna work.
Have you ever had it done before?
You know what? I had one. I guess what you were talking about before, where you step on it, and it told you your percentage of fat, but it also gave you like what your actual age would theoretically be. Like not you're a certain age, but what age is your body? Based on that, and I don't know if that was accurate or anything like that, but I did well on it. I got like 34 or something like that. So I think it was really accurate, Dave. I'm gonna go that. That was one of the most accurate things I've ever seen, Dave.
You came out feeling pretty good about yourself, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But I understand.
The calipers, like I remember when I was in university, actually, we were being taught how to use calipers on a client, and our instructor kind of gave us a pair and said, hey, go measure your tricep fold on your partner. And I remember just taking this thing and pinching away until I found some sort of skin fold I could grab onto. And I don't know what the reading was, but I'm sure it was not even close to accurate. So, calipers, yeah, they can work with someone that's trained, but most people probably are just going to be pinching their fat, and that's about it.
Well, you hear about like these bodybuilders that for a guy, they get their body fat down to what, like 5% or 6% or something, maybe even less than that. I don't know. I mean, how healthy is that for somebody?
Yeah, like again, it depends on a person, like from person to person. So myself, I'm of the body type ectomorph, and an ectomorph is someone who's naturally really lean, really skinny. Hence why that girl said the comment about my skinny arms. But I walk around at, like probably a 5 or 6% body fat. Just that's what my body likes to do when I'm
I
exercising.
lost it. What was the percent?
Like five or six
Oh, you do?
percent.
Wow. Wow.
But for me, so the contrast of that is an ectomorph has a really tough time building muscle. Whereas, someone maybe like yourself can go into the gym and work out a couple weeks and all of a sudden you see those muscles popping out. That's tough for me. So it just depends on your body type.
Okay. Wow. And what are the types? You just said the ectomorph, and what was the other one?
Well, there's three. So ectomorph is the beanpole. A mesomorph is kind of the athletic build, and that's sort of the ideal one. You can put on muscle quite quickly. You can also shed fat quite quickly. And then the opposite end of the scale from the ectomorph is the endomorph, and that's someone, you picture a big linebacker or a defensive football player, big, heavy guys who can pack on the weight, but for them to actually trim down is quite difficult.
Understood. And Dave, is there one body type that you see more? Or is there one body type that comes to you more for training, or not really? It's sort of a flip of the coin.
Well, for me, because I deal with weight loss, I don't see many ectomorphs, that's for sure.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, a lot of mesomorphs and endomorphs. Endomorphs in particular, because they're quite often the clients who will come and say, I've tried everything and nothing works. And in reality, their body is just predisposed to hold a little bit more fat than maybe the rest of the population is. But I always tell them, just because that's your predisposition, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the predictive outcome once you take the right steps.
Understood. Understood. Well, Dave, we come to the inevitable part of our interview where, and maybe you've answered this, but we're looking for that holy grail of health. And if I were to pose that question to you, Dave Smith, what would you consider to be the holy grail of health? What would that be, sir?
Like the holy grail for me is to be able to move your body pain-free in a way that'll allow you to do the things that you want to do. And for an athlete, that might mean something different than, a parent who wants to be able to play with their kids, or a weekend warrior who wants to go for a run. So if you can do the activities that you want to do and you feel good doing them, it's pretty hard to argue with that. It's pretty hard to look at a body fat scale and say, I'm doing something wrong if you can do everything in life that you want
to do.
Yeah.
Wow. It's powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Dave, you were chosen as Canada's top fitness professional in 2013. What was that like?
It was pretty exciting. Actually, I had a little chuckle when you brought up that Subway research, because the award was actually sponsored by Subway. And
Sorry.
no, it's all good. But then the kind of funny side of this is, so I had to get up. I was in an audience. Basically, there's like 15,000 personal trainers from across Canada who are at this conference, and so they announced that I was chosen. I go up on stage, and they asked me to give a speech. And this guy from Subway's there with a big check, presenting me with this check for winning this award. And I felt obligated to be nice to Subway. And so I said something about, I don't even remember what it was, but I remember just saying, oh, I love the whatever turkey sub. I just guessed something, made it up out of my head. And he looked really happy that I had mentioned Subway and handed me my check. So I sold out. I sold out to the man.
Well, I hope it was a really big check, right?
Yeah, seriously. And then the funny thing, to go with this check, they gave me, it was some obscene amount, maybe $5,000 worth of Subway gift cards.
Oh, my God.
For the next year, I just gave anyone that I met, here, take $10, go have a sub,
That's great. That's great. Dave, people that want to learn more about you, more about what you do and stuff like that, how would they get in touch with you? And also, you have your own podcast and stuff. How would they find out about that?
Yeah, the best place is just checking my website. So it's makeyourbodywork.com. And there you will find my podcast. You'll find my blog. I have probably a couple hundred exercise videos that teach sort of those primal movements that we talked about. And then if you have any questions, honestly, seriously, Dan, my favorite part of my day is getting questions from people who are actually looking to change their health. So if anyone listening has questions, feel free, go to my website and shoot me an email.
Dave Smith, thank you very much for being on the show, sir. It was awesome, and the listeners, I'm sure, are going to get a great deal out of it.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. Anytime. It was a pleasure being here.
Talk soon. Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by New Jersey Foot and Ankle Center in Oradell, New Jersey. Remember, when you have a foot problem, you've got a foot doctor in the family. Weekend and evening appointments are available. Call us at 201 261 9445. Once again, that's 201 261 9445. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes over at drdanspeaks.com. If you're loving the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review, and we'll catch you next time. Voiceovers for this episode were provided by Randy Ramos Jr. To see and hear more of his work, visit randyramosjr.com.